He thought about his mother, who had cried when he left, and his faith. The morning came too quickly. Tejo had not slept well. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the golden fire of Queen Lyria's gaze, the mockery in General Doc's scarred face, the towering warriors who looked at him like he was already dead. But when the guards came to take him, he was ready. He had washed his face, eaten what food he could, and packed the small bag they allowed him to carry. Inside were simple things: a knife no longer than his hand, a water container that held enough for one day if he was careful, a medical kit with bandages and basic medicine, a thin blanket that could fold into nothing, a device that would call for rescue if he chose to surrender. That last item, Tejo knew he would never use. The transport ship flew over the Valari capital, and Tejo looked down at the alien city through the window. It was beautiful in a strange way. Towers of black glass reached toward the purple sky. Rivers of silver light flowed between buildings. Millions of Valari went about their lives below, never knowing or caring that a small human was flying to his death above their heads. After an hour, the city disappeared behind them. The land below changed. Green forests became brown plains. Brown plains became red sand. The crimson wastes stretched out before them like an ocean of blood, endless and empty. Vorn, the captain of the Queen's Guard, sat across from Tejo. He had been silent for most of the journey, but now he spoke. "I do not understand you, human," Vorn said. His blue eyes glowed in the dim light of the ship. "You could have refused. You could have asked for a different trial. Why did you accept death so easily?" Tejo looked at the Valari warrior. "Because it is not death I accepted. It is life. I will survive this trial, Captain. And when I do, your queen will have to take me seriously." Vorn made a sound that was almost like a laugh, but there was no mockery in it this time. "You truly believe this? I can see it in your eyes." He leaned forward, his voice dropping low. "The Crimson Wastes have claimed warriors I trained with, soldiers the first fought beside. They were strong, faster, better prepared. They all died. What makes you think you will be different?" "Because I am not trying to be stronger or faster," Tejo replied. "I am trying to be smarter. The desert does not care about strength. It cares about survival. And humans are very good at surviving." The ship began to descend. Through the window, Tejo could see nothing but red sand in every direction. No trees, no water, no shelter. Just endless crimson desert under two burning suns. The door opened and heat flooded into the ship. It was like standing in front of a fire. Tejo felt the sweat begin to form on his skin immediately. He took a deep breath of the hot air and stepped outside. His feet sank into the sand. It was soft and loose, making every step difficult. The suns beat down on him from above, their light so bright that he had to squint to see Vorn step to the doorway of the ship. 3 days, human. Survive 3 days, and a ship will come to collect you. The signal device in your bag will call for rescue if you choose to surrender. But know this: if you surrender, you will be sent back to Earth in disgrace. The Queen will never grant your request." Tejo nodded. "I understand. One more thing," Vorn said. His voice was strange, almost hesitant. "The predators here hunt at night. They are called sand devils. Even our warriors cannot fight them alone. When darkness comes, you must hide. Do you understand?" "I understand," Tejo said again. "Thank you for the warning, Captain." Vorn looked at him for a long moment. Then he stepped back, and the door began to close. "Good luck, human. You will need it." The ship rose into the sky and disappeared into the distance. Tejo watched it go until it was nothing but a dot against the purple clouds. Then he was alone. The silence of the desert was complete. No wind, No animals. No sound at all, except the beating of his own heart and the soft crunch of sand under his feet. Tejo turned in a slow circle, looking at his surroundings. In every direction, the same view met his eyes. Red sand, rising and falling in endless dunes, stretching to the horizon where it met the purple sky. He could feel the suns burning his skin already. The temperature was rising. In his studies, Tejo had learned that the crimson wastes reached temperatures that could kill an unprotected Valari in 4 hours. A human would last half that time. He needed to find shelter. Now, Tejo began to walk. He did not run, because running would waste energy and water. He moved at a steady pace, his eyes scanning the landscape for anything that could provide shade. The sand made walking difficult. Every step required effort. As his feet sank into the soft ground dot, after an hour, he found what he was looking for. A rock formation rose from the sand, a cluster of red stones that created a natural cave. It was small, barely big enough for one person, but it would provide shade from the suns. Tejo crawled inside. The relief was immediate. The temperature in the shade was still hot, but compared to the burning heat outside, it felt almost cool. He took a small drink from his water container and forced himself to stop. Water was precious. He could not waste a single drop. He spent the hottest hours of the day in the cave, resting his body and saving his energy. He thought about what he knew of the crimson wastes. The Valari had shared some information with him before the trial, though they had clearly expected him to die regardless of what he knew. The desert had 3 main dangers. First, the heat during the day, which could kill through dehydration and heat stroke. Second, the cold at night, which dropped so low that water would freeze in minutes. Third, the sand devils, the predators that hunted between sunset and sunrise. 3 problems. 3 solutions needed. For the heat, Tejo had already found his answer. He would travel in the early morning and late evening, when the suns were low. During the hottest hours, he would rest in shade. For the cold, he had his thin blanket. It was made of a special material that could trap body heat. It would not be comfortable, but it would keep him alive. For the sand devils, he needed something more. He could not fight them. He could not outrun them. He needed to become invisible dot as the suns began to set. Tejo crawled out of his cave. The temperature was dropping rapidly. The sky changed from purple to deep blue to black. Stars appeared above, more stars than Tejo had ever seen, filling the sky like scattered diamonds. He began to dig, using his small knife and his hands. Tejo carved a hole in the sand beneath a large rock. He made it just big enough for his body, deep enough that he would be below the surface. Then he gathered loose sand and piled it next to the hole. When night fully fell, Tejo heard them. The sound started as a whisper, a soft scraping noise that came from somewhere in the darkness. Then it grew louder. More scrapers joined the first. Soon, the desert was filled with the sound of movement, of things crawling through the sand, hunting for prey. Tejo lowered himself into his hole. He pulled the blanket over his body, covering himself completely. Then, with careful movements, he pulled the sand over the blanket, burying himself beneath the surface. He lay there in the darkness, barely breathing. The sand pressed against him from all sides. The air under his blanket was hot and thin. Above him, he could hear the sand devils moving, their claws scraping against the rock that protected his hiding place. One of them stopped directly above him. Tejo could hear it sniffing, could feel the vibration of its movement through the sand. His heart was pounding so hard, he was certain the creature could hear it. Minutes passed. They felt like hours. The sand devil sniffed and scratched, searching for the prey it could sense but not find. Then, finally, it moved on. The scraping sounds faded into the distance as the hunters continued their search elsewhere. Tejo did not move. He stayed buried in the sand until the first light of morning touched the sky. Only then did he push away the sand and climb out of his hole. His body was stiff and sore. His throat was dry. But he was alive. The first day was over. Taiho allowed himself a small smile. He took another careful drink of water and began walking toward the rising suns. He needed to find more water. His container would not last 3 days, no matter how careful he was as he walked. He remembered what his teachers had told him on Earth. Water is everywhere, they had said. You just need to know how to find it. He looked for signs. Dark patches in the sand. Plants that should not grow in a desert. Insects moving in patterns. For hours, he found nothing. The crimson wastes seemed truly dead, a world of sand and rock where nothing could survive. Then he saw it. A small plant, no bigger than his thumb, growing in the shadow of a stone. It was gray and ugly, with thick leaves that looked like they were made of leather. But it was alive. And where there was life, there was water. Taiho knelt beside the plant. He carefully dug around its roots, going deeper and deeper into the sand. After a few minutes of digging, he felt something change. The sand became darker, wetter. He kept digging. Water. Not much. Just a tiny pool that had collected in a natural basin beneath the surface. But it was enough. Taiho filled his container, careful not to disturb the muddy bottom. The water was not clean, but his medical kit contained purification tablets that would make it safe to drink. He had solved the water problem. Now he needed to survive 2 more nights. The second day was harder than the first. The sun seemed hotter. The sand seemed deeper. Taiho's legs burned with effort as he climbed dune after. The ship was small. That was what the Valari noticed first. When the human vessel broke through the purple clouds of their world, every soldier on the landing platform looked at each other with confusion. They had expected something grand, something powerful. Instead, they saw a metal box with wings, no bigger than a transport shuttle. Ho stood inside that small ship, looking through the window at the alien world below. His heart was beating fast, but his face showed nothing. He had trained for this moment for 5 years. He had learned their language, studied their customs, and memorized every detail about their queen. Now, he was about to meet her. The ship landed with a soft thud. Steam rose from the engines as the door slowly opened. Taiho stepped out into the light of 2 suns. The air was thick and warm, carrying a strange smell like burning metal and flowers mixed together. Before him stood 12 Valari warriors. They were tall, almost 8 feet each. Their skin was the color of dark silver, and their eyes glowed with a soft blue light. They wore armor made of black crystal, and each one carried a blade longer than Taiho's entire body. Taiho was not a tall man. He stood at 5 feet and 9 inches, with black hair cut short and simple brown eyes. He wore a plain gray uniform with no weapons, no armor. Next to the Valari warriors, he looked like a child standing among giants. One of the warriors stepped forward. His name was Vorn, and he was the captain of the Queen's Guard. He looked down at the human with something between curiosity and disgust. "You are the ambassador?" Vorn asked. His voice was deep like thunder rolling through mountains. "I am," Taiho replied. His voice was calm and steady. "My name is Taiho. I come from Earth, representing the United Human Council. I bring greetings to Queen Lyria and the great Valari Empire." Vorn made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Greetings," he repeated. "Your kind sends one small creature to greet an empire that rules 1,000 worlds. Is this how humans show respect?" Taiho did not look away from the warrior's glowing eyes. "On Earth, we believe that quality matters more than quantity. I am enough." The warriors exchanged glances. They had never heard a small creature speak with such confidence. Vorn studied the human for a long moment, then turned and began walking toward the palace. "Follow," he commanded. "The queen will decide what you are worth." The palace of the Valari Empire was unlike anything Taiho had ever seen. It rose from the ground like a mountain made of black glass, reaching so high that its top disappeared into the clouds. Light from the twin suns reflected off its surface, creating patterns of fire across its walls. Inside, the halls were wide enough for 10 men to walk side by side. The floors were made of polished stone that showed Taiho his own reflection as he walked. Strange plants grew along the walls, their leaves glowing with soft green light. Everywhere he looked, there were Valari. Some wore armor like the warriors, while others wore flowing robes of purple and gold. All of them stopped to stare at the human passing through their halls. Taiho heard their whispers. "So small. Is this a joke?" The humans sent their weakest. He ignored them all. He kept his eyes forward, his steps steady. He had expected this. The Valari were proud. They valued strength above all else. A human appearing in their empire was like an ant walking into a house of lions. Of course they would laugh. Of course they would doubt. That was exactly what Taiho was counting on. The throne room was at the heart of the palace. Its ceiling was so high that it seemed to touch the sky. Great pillars of crystal held it up, each one carved with images of battles and victories from the empire's long history. At the far end of the room, on a throne made of black diamond, sat Queen Lyria. She was magnificent. Even Taiho, who had studied her image for years, was not prepared for the reality of her presence. Lyria was tall, even for a Valari, standing over 9 feet when she rose. Her skin was silver like moonlight, and her eyes burned with a golden fire that seemed to see through everything. She wore a crown of twisted metal that looked like frozen lightning, and her robes were the deep purple of dying stars. Around her stood her council. 12 advisors, each one a master of their field. Generals, scientists, diplomats, and priests. Among them, closest to the Queen's right hand, stood General Doc. He was an old Valari, his skin darker than the others, marked with scars from countless battles. His eyes held no kindness as they fell upon the human. Taiho walked forward until he stood at the bottom of the steps leading to the throne. Then he stopped and bowed deeply, just as Valari custom demanded. "Rise," Queen Lyria said. Her voice was clear and cold like winter wind. "Let me look at you, human." Taiho raised his head and met the Queen's golden gaze. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence in the throne room was complete. Every Valari held their breath, waiting to see what their queen would do. Then Lyria laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had just heard the most ridiculous joke in the universe. She rose from her throne and descended the steps, her movements smooth like water flowing downhill. She stopped in front of Taiho and looked down at him. "This is what humanity sends to represent their species?" She asked, speaking not to Taiho but to her court. "A creature I could break with one hand? A being so feeble that even our children could defeat him in combat?" Laughter filled the throne room. The Valari nobles found great joy in their queen's words. General Doc was laughing loudest of all, his scarred face twisted with amusement. Taiho did not laugh. He did not look away. He simply stood there, waiting. Queen Lyria noticed his calmness. She stopped laughing and studied him more closely. "You do not defend yourself, human. You do not argue against my words. What would be the point, Your Majesty?" Taiho replied, "You speak truth. In matters of raw strength, I am nothing compared to a Valari. Your weakest soldier could tear me apart. Your children could crush my bones." He paused. But strength is not the only measure of worth. The laughter in the throne room died away. Queen Lyria tilted her head, her golden eyes narrowing. "Then what would you offer us, feeble creature?" What could humanity possibly give the Valari Empire that we do not already have? Partnership, Tejo said. Understanding. A different way of thinking. He took a breath. Your empire is powerful, Your Majesty. But power alone does not solve every problem. Sometimes you need creativity. Sometimes you need adaptation. Sometimes you need someone who thinks differently. General Doc stepped forward, his voice harsh. We need nothing from weak species. The Valari have ruled 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years. What have humans accomplished in your short history? Tejo turned to face the general. We survived, he said simply. Our world tried to kill us with ice, with fire, with disease, with disaster. We had no natural weapons, no armor, no strength. Yet we survived. We built civilizations, explored our planet, reached for the stars. Not because we were strong, General. Because we refused to give up. The throne room was silent again. Queen Lyria was watching Tejo with an expression he could not read. Was it curiosity? Interest? Or simply the look of a predator deciding how to play with its prey? Pretty words, Lyria said finally. But words prove nothing. In the Valari Empire, worth is demonstrated through action, not speech. She returned to her throne and sat down, her golden eyes never leaving Tejo. Tomorrow, you will face the trial of the wastes. Survive 3 days in the Crimson Desert, and I will consider your request for partnership. Fail, and your bones will join the thousands of others who have fallen there. A murmur ran through the court. The trial of the wastes was legendary. It was a punishment usually reserved for the worst criminals, a death sentence disguised as a test. Even Valari warriors, with all their strength and training, rarely survived more than 2 days. Tejo felt his stomach turn cold. But he kept his face calm. He kept his voice steady. I accept, he said. Queen Lyria's eyes widened slightly. She had expected him to beg, to plead, to ask for a different test. Instead, the small human simply accepted his likely death without hesitation. You understand what you are agreeing to? She asked. The Crimson Wastes have claimed the lives of thousands. Warriors far stronger than you have died screaming under its suns. Tejo nodded. I understand. But Your Majesty asked me to prove my worth through action. This is my action. I will survive your trial. For the first time since Tejo had entered the throne room, Queen Lyria's expression changed. The mockery faded from her eyes, replaced by something that might have been respect. It was small, barely visible, but it was there. Take him to the guest quarters, she commanded. Give him food and rest. Tomorrow, we will see if humans are more than words. The guards came forward to escort Tejo away. As he turned to leave, he heard General Doc speaking quietly to the Queen. He will not last 1 day, Your Majesty. This is a waste of time. Queen Lyria did not respond. She simply watched the small human walk away, her golden eyes thoughtful, her fingers tapping slowly against the arm of her diamond throne. That night, Tejo sat alone in his quarters. The room was large and comfortable, filled with alien luxuries he did not understand. But he ignored them all. He sat on the floor, cross-legged, his eyes closed, his breathing slow and steady. He thought about his home, about Earth, about the people who had sent him here with hopes and dreams resting on his shoulders. There were factions within the court, groups that disagreed about the future of Valari civilization. Some wanted to Conti. The night of the betrayal began like any other night in the palace. The twin moons hung low in the purple sky, casting silver light through the windows. Guards walked their usual paths. Servants finished their usual duties. The palace settled into its usual quiet. Tejo was in his room, reading a book about Valari history. His injuries had fully healed now, and he had grown comfortable in the palace. He had even started to feel something he had not expected to feel on an alien world. He felt at home. A knock at his door broke his concentration. He set down a book and opened the door. Vorn stood there. The captain's face was tense, his blue eyes filled with worry. "Something is wrong," Vorn said quietly. "I do not have proof, but my instincts tell me danger is coming. General Doc has been meeting with warriors in secret. I have seen messages being passed. Ships have been moving in strange patterns." Teo's heart began to beat faster. "You think he is planning something against the Queen?" "I think he is planning something tonight." Vorn stepped inside and closed the door behind him. "Doc has never hidden his hatred for you, but lately he's been too quiet. A predator goes silent before it strikes." "Have you told the Queen?" "I tried, but she will not believe accusations without proof, and I have none." Doc has been careful. Vorn's jaw tightened. "If I'm wrong, accusing a general of treason would destroy my career and dishonor my family. But if I'm right and I do nothing, then the Queen dies," Teo finished. They looked at each other. Two soldiers from different worlds, bound together by duty and a growing friendship that neither had expected. "What do you need me to do?" Teo asked. "Stay close to the Queen tonight. I will gather the warriors I trust and prepare for whatever comes. If nothing happens, we look foolish. If something does happen..." Vorn handed Teo a small device. "This is a direct communication link to me. Press the button and I will come with everything I have." Teo took the device and slipped it into his pocket. "I will not let anything happen to her." Vorn nodded once, then left. Teo stood alone in his room, his mind racing. He was not a warrior. He had no weapons, no armor, no training in combat. If Doc attacked with soldiers, what could one human do against them? But he had made a promise. Not just to Vorn, but to himself. He had come to this world to build a bridge between species. Queen Lyria was that bridge. Without her, the Alliance would die. Without her, humanity's chance for partnership with the Valari Empire would vanish. He would protect her. Somehow the Queen's private chambers were in the highest tower of the palace. Teo walked through empty hallways, his footsteps echoing off the glass walls. The palace felt different tonight, quieter, emptier, as if the building itself was holding its breath. The guards at the Queen's door recognized him. Over the past weeks, he had become a regular visitor, welcome for conversations and counsel. They nodded and let him pass. Inside, Queen Lyria sat by a window, looking out at the city below. She wore simple robes instead of her usual royal dress, and her crown sat on a table nearby. Without the symbols of her power, she looked almost ordinary, almost vulnerable. "Human," she said without turning. "It is late for a visit. I could not sleep, Your Majesty. I hoped you might welcome some company." Lyria turned to face him. Her golden eyes studied his face, seeing something there that made her pause. "You are worried. I can see it in your expression. What troubles you?" Teo hesitated. Should he tell her about Vorn's suspicions? She had already dismissed them once, but lying to her felt wrong. "I have heard rumors," he said carefully. "Rumors about certain people in your court who may not be loyal. I wanted to be close, just in case." "Doc." The Queen's voice was flat. "You speak of General Doc. Captain Vorn believes. Vorn is a loyal soldier, but he sees shadows everywhere." Lyria turned back to the window. "Doc is ambitious, yes. But he has served my family for 60 years. He fought beside my mother. He bled for this empire. He would not betray me, even if he believes you are making a mistake." Teo asked quietly. "Even if he believes the human alliance will weaken the empire?" The Queen was silent. Outside, the city sparkled with lights. Ships moved between the towers like fireflies. It was peaceful, beautiful. It was the last moment of peace they would have that night. The explosion came without warning. The tower shook. Glass shattered. Alarms began to scream throughout the palace. Tejo was thrown to the floor, his ears ringing, his vision blurred. Through the smoke and chaos, he heard shouting, screaming, the clash of weapons. The coup had begun. Tejo pushed himself up from the floor. His body ached, but nothing was broken. He looked for the queen and found her standing by the window, her eyes blazing with golden fire. "They dare," she hissed. "They dare attack me in my own palace. Your Majesty, we need to move." Tejo grabbed her arm, pulling her away from the window. "Doc soldiers will be coming. We cannot stay here." Lyria pulled her arm free. "I am the queen. I do not run from traitors." "Then you die like a queen instead of living like one." Tejo met her eyes without flinching. "You can fight them later, when you have loyal forces around you. But right now, you are alone except for me. Please, trust me." For a long moment, Lyria stared at him. The sounds of battle grew closer. Shouting in the hallway, weapons striking against armor. The screams of wounded guards. Then she nodded. They ran. The queen moved fast, her long legs carrying her through the halls with grace. Tejo struggled to keep up, his human body no match for Valari's speed. But he pushed himself, ignoring the burning in his lungs, the pain in his legs. They reached a side passage that led to a hidden staircase. Lyria had shown him this route during one of their walks, a secret path known only to the royal family. It would take them down through the palace, away from the fighting. But as they entered the passage, warriors stepped out of the shadows ahead. Doc soldiers. 5 of them, their black armor marked with the general symbol. They held their weapons ready, their blue eyes glowing in the darkness. "Going somewhere, Your Majesty?" one of them asked. His voice was mocking. "The general would like a word with you." Lyria straightened to her full height. Even without her crown, even in simple robes, she radiated power. "Stand aside. I am your queen." "You are our queen," the soldier replied. "General Doc is the future now. The human has corrupted you. The Alliance will destroy us. We do this to save the Empire." More footsteps behind them. Tejo turned and saw 3 more soldiers blocking their retreat. They were trapped. 8 warriors against 1 queen and 1 feeble human. Tejo's hand went to his pocket, to the communication device Vorn had given him. He pressed the button. "That will not help you," the lead soldier said. "Vorn and his loyalists are already being dealt with. No one is coming to save you." Lyria moved faster than Tejo could follow. One moment she was standing still. The next, she had grabbed the nearest soldier and thrown him into the wall with enough force to crack the stone. She caught his falling weapon and spun, blocking a strike from another warrior. She fought like lightning. Her blade moved in patterns too fast to see. 2 more soldiers fell before they could react. But more were coming, pressing in from both sides, overwhelming her with numbers. A soldier grabbed her from behind. Another struck her across the face. She stumbled, blood flowing from a cut above her eye. They forced her to her knees, 3 warriors holding her down while the others surrounded them. The lead soldier raised his blade. "The general wanted you alive, but I think he will understand. The human has poisoned your mind. Death is a mercy." "No." Tejo did not think. He simply moved. He threw himself between the blade and the queen. The sword meant for Lyria's neck cut deep into his shoulder instead. Pain exploded through his body. Blood poured from the wound. But he did not fall. He grabbed the soldier's arm with both hands and held on. The warrior tried to pull free, but Tejo would not let go. His grip was not strong, but it was desperate. His fingers dug into the gaps in the armor. His body weight dragged against the soldier's movement. "What are you doing, creature?" the soldier demanded. He struck Taeho with his free hand, again and again. Bones cracked. Skin split. But Taeho held on. Buying time, he gasped through bloody lips. The soldier raised his blade for another strike. But before he could bring it down, a sound echoed through the passage. Footsteps. Dozens of them. Running VORN. Burst through the shadows with 20 loyal warriors behind him. They crashed into Doc's soldiers like a wave hitting rocks. The passage became chaos. Blades flashing. Bodies falling. Blood spraying across the walls. In seconds, it was over. Doc's soldiers lay dead or dying on the floor. Vorn stood over the lead soldier, his blade pressed against the traitor's throat. "Where's the general?" Vorn demanded. The soldier laughed, blood bubbling from his mouth. "Too late. He's already in the throne room. The palace is his. You have lost." Vorn's blade moved. The soldier stopped laughing. Taeho fell to his knees. The wound in his shoulder was bad. Very bad. He could feel his strength fading, his vision growing dark around the edges. He had lost too much blood. Queen Lyria knelt beside him. Her golden eyes were wide, her face covered with blood and dust. She looked at the wound in his shoulder, at the bruises covering his body, at the damage he had taken to save her life. 3 months had passed since the night of the betrayal. The palace had been rebuilt. The bloodstains had been cleaned. The broken glass had been replaced with new panels that shone like dark mirrors. From the outside, it looked like nothing had ever happened. But everything had changed. Taeho stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city. His shoulder still ached sometimes, a reminder of the blade that had nearly ended his life. The scar was hidden beneath his clothes, but he felt it every day. He wore it like a badge of honor. Behind him, the door opened. He knew who it was without turning. He had learned to recognize her footsteps, light and quick despite her size. "You are always watching the city," Queen Lyria said, coming to stand beside him. "What do you see?" "Life," Taeho replied. "Millions of lives, going about their days. They do not know what happens in the palace. They do not know how close they came to having a tyrant on the throne. They just live. Is that how it is on Earth? People living without knowing the struggles of their leaders? Mostly. Leaders work in the shadows, trying to keep the light burning for everyone else." Taeho turned to look at her. "Is that not what you do, Your Majesty?" Lyria smiled. It was a different smile than the one she had worn when he first arrived. That smile had been cold, mocking, the smile of a queen who saw a joke standing before her. This smile was warm, real. "Perhaps," she said. "Though some nights, I wonder if the light is worth the cost." The alliance had been signed 2 weeks after the coup. It was a simple agreement at first. Trade between Earth and the Valari Empire. Exchange of knowledge and technology. Promise of mutual defense against common enemies. But everyone who saw the document knew it was more than paper and words. It was the beginning of something new. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. And the Valari had found something they had never expected. A partner. A friend. An ally that brought not strength, but wisdom. "The council meeting is in 1 hour, Lyria said. "We will be discussing the next phase of the alliance. The establishment of a human embassy on one of our outer worlds. There will be resistance." "There is always resistance," Taeho said. "But you have taught me that resistance can be overcome. Not with force, but with patience and persuasion." "I taught you that?" Lyria laughed softly. "I think you taught me that, human. I used to believe that strength was the answer to every problem. That power could solve anything. You showed me a different way." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights flicker and glow. 3 months of working together had created something neither of them had expected. Not love exactly. Not love, exactly, but something close to it. Trust, respect, understanding. A bond across the impossible distance between two very different species. There is something I must tell you, Lyria said finally. Her voice was different now. Serious, worried. Tejo looked at her. What is it? The queen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her words were careful, chosen one by one like precious stones. The blade that struck you was poisoned. The doctors discovered it during your treatment. They neutralized most of the poison, but some of it entered your blood. Your human body is fighting it, but the doctors say there may be long-term effects. Tejo felt cold despite the warm air. What kind of effects? They are not certain. Your species is new to them. They do not know how human bodies react to our poisons over time. Lyria turned to face him fully. I wanted you to know. You deserve to know. Thank you for telling me. Tejo's voice was calm, even though his heart was racing. I will deal with whatever comes. You always say that. I will deal with it, as if problems are simply things to be solved. Are they not? Lyria shook her head slowly. For humans, perhaps. Your species treats existence like a puzzle. Every challenge is a piece to be placed. Every obstacle is a problem to be overcome. You never accept defeat. You never accept that some things cannot be changed. Because we believe they can be changed, Tejo said. That is the human spirit, Your Majesty. We are stubborn. We refuse to accept the impossible. Sometimes that stubbornness kills us. Sometimes it saves us. But it is what makes us who we are. The queen studied his face. Her golden eyes saw things that other eyes could not. They saw the strength beneath the weakness, the fire beneath the calm, the iron will that had carried this small creature through a desert of death and a night of blood. I am dying, she said. Thought the words hit Tejo like a physical blow. He stared at her, unable to speak. The blade that Doc's soldier used was one of a pair, Lyria continued. The second blade struck me during the battle in the throne room. I did not tell anyone. I did not want to show weakness during the crisis. But the poison is in me too, and Valari bodies do not fight it as well as human bodies do. No. Tejo shook his head. No, the doctors can find a cure. We can bring specialists from Earth. We can. There is no cure. Lyria's voice was gentle but firm. Our doctors have tried everything. Human medicine cannot help because it was designed for human bodies. The poison will kill me. Slowly, painfully. Within the year, I will be dead. Tejo felt tears forming in his eyes. He did not try to hide them. Why did you not tell me sooner? Because I needed time. Time to plan. Time to prepare for what must come next. The queen walked to the edge of the balcony and looked out at her empire. I have no children, no heir. When I die, the empire will tear itself apart. Every noble, every general, every ambitious fool will fight for the throne. Civil war will destroy everything we have built. Then name an heir. Choose someone you trust to lead after you. Lyria turned back to him. Her golden eyes were bright with something he had never seen before. Hope. I have, she said. I choose you. The silence that followed was absolute. Tejo could not move, could not breathe, could not think. The words made no sense. They were impossible. Your Majesty, do not argue with me, human. I have made my decision. Lyria stepped toward him. You cannot rule as king. The Valari would never accept a human on the throne directly. But you can serve as regent, a protector of the empire until a suitable heir can be trained. My cousin's daughter is young, only 10 years old by your counting, but she has the bloodline and the potential. With your guidance, she can become a great queen. I am human. Your people will never follow me. They will follow you because I commanded, and because you have already proven yourself worthy. You survived the Crimson Wastes. You saved my life. You helped build the first alliance between our species. Lyria placed her hand on his shoulder over the scar that he carried. You are not Valari, but you have earned the respect of my people. Even those who doubted you before now speak your name with honor. Teho's mind was spinning. This was not what he had come here for. He had come to build a bridge between worlds, not to rule an empire. He was a diplomat, not a king, but he looked into Lyria's eyes and saw the truth there. She was dying. Her empire would die with her unless someone stepped forward to hold it together. And she had chosen him, not because he was the strongest or the most powerful, but because she trusted him, because she believed in him. The council will never accept this, he said. The council will accept what I tell them to accept. I am still their queen. Lyria's voice hardened. And any who refuse will be reminded of what happens to those who defy the crown. That sounds like the old Lyria, the one who ruled through fear. Perhaps. But some things require strength, even the strength of fear. This is one of them. She softened. You will rule differently. I know you will. You will guide the empire with patience and wisdom, not force. You will teach my cousin's daughter to be a better ruler than I was. And you will maintain the alliance with Earth, ensuring that our two species grow together instead of apart. Teho looked out at the city one more time. Millions of lives. An empire of 1,000 worlds. All of it would rest on his shoulders. A human. The feeble creature who had walked into this palace just months ago. Mocked and dismissed by everyone who saw him. How things had changed. I have one condition, he said finally. Name it. When you die, your funeral will honor both Valari and human traditions. Your people will see that our alliance is not just political. It is personal. It is a bond between two souls who learn to understand each other. Lyria smiled. For a moment, she looked young again, happy, at peace. Agreed, she said. The announcement came the next day. Queen Lyria stood before her court, her voice strong despite the poison slowly killing her from within. She declared Teho regent of the Valari Empire, protector of the young heir, guardian of the alliance. She commanded every noble, every soldier, every citizen to obey him as they would obey her. Some refused. They were stripped of their titles and exiled to the outer worlds. Others accepted with grace, recognizing the wisdom of the queen's choice. And a few, like Vorn, knelt before Teho with genuine loyalty, pledging their lives to his service. The months that followed were difficult. The queen's health declined slowly, each day taking a little more of her strength. Teho spent every free moment at her side, listening to her stories, learning the secrets of the empire, preparing for the day when she would be gone. They talked about everything. About Valari history and human history. About the stars and the planets and the endless wonders of the universe. About fear and hope and love and loss.